as more and more people stop reading, stop subscribing, I mean, what can you say about all this? Like what's happening right now with communications?
Well, we really don't know. We're in a transition period, and I don't think we know where we're going. But I do think that, and I'm an old fart, let's face it, you know. So I grew up in newspapers, so that's what I read and get my news from. But I think there's too much emphasis, focus on social media and smartphones, iPads. I mean, people walk down the street, crossing the street, they have these smartphones up to their ears or up to their mouths, or they're reading. They're not even enjoying a beautiful spring day out there. They're not looking at they're not smelling the roses, you know. They miss a lot. They're not, you see people at lunch, they're not even talking to each other. They're looking at their cell phones. You know, my own daughters are doing that, you know. So I think you miss a lot. But what happens also is you key into whatever media outlet publishes what you agree with. So you become more and more set in your ways. You don't read the other side. You don't hear about the other side so much. And that's one of the reasons we've become so polarized in this country. The right has gone way to the right. Left has gone to the left. The middle doesn't exist that much anymore, or moderates can't get elected because all the actions on the right or the left, and we wind up with where we are. That the Congress can't get anything done because people can't come together and agree. I mean, our whole democratic system is set up for compromise. You got to compromise. You have checks and balances. We have more checks and balances than any other country, probably. But that depends on people of goodwill coming together and setting aside their differences and compromising. And the nation isn't doing that right now. That's the big problem. I don't know where we're going on it.
So do you tweet? What is your...
I rarely tweet. I used to tweet more, but I'm kind of disgusted with tweeting because I go into Twitter and I have to wade through all these pictures and video and stuff, and people are just tweeting to tweet. I don't care about what people had for breakfast or that kind of thing, and everybody has a PhD in the obvious.
George Skelton has interviewed presidents, he's interviewed governors. He's not just covered them, he's traveled with them. He has been the White House correspondent. He's been the California State Capitol reporter. So he's got just a wealth of information and advice for all of us as we do communications, as we create content in 2019.
I know what worked for me. Read a lot, read good writing, try to emulate good writing. Don't be afraid to make your sources angry at you. Cut through the bullshit. Write the truth. If the people you write about don't like it, tough. If you do that, you'll be around a lot longer than they will anyway. Just the main advice is have fun at it, and if you don't have fun, don't do it. Go do something you have fun at.
The one on the bottom with Ronald Reagan?
Yeah, that's an Oval Office. Those two are both in the Oval Office. That one up in the middle there is on Air Force One. I interviewed him. I asked him about his sex life.
You did? What did he say?
Well, it's a long story. I'll try to keep it short. But he was in Houston, and he was talking to a bunch of young kids who were in a drug rehab. And he said, if you take care of your body like I have, and you get to be my age, you can tie your shoes without sitting down, do all kinds of other things. And a lot of things are a lot more fun or something like that with a big grin on his face. And so we all thought he was talking about sex. And the press did. And I saw Mike Deaver later in his office in the White House, one of Reagan's top aides, and I said, was he talking about sex? And he said, well, that's what we thought. We thought he was all talking about sex. And I said, well, was he? I don't know. Well, why don't you ask him? So he set up an interview, and I asked him about it. And what he said was, well, George, he didn't say anything. He said, George, I don't talk about things like that. Ever since Jimmy Carter and Playhouse, he meant Playboy magazine, but he said Playhouse. I said, well, is there anything you can't do today that you could do 20 years ago? And he said, no, anything I could do 20 years ago, I can do some even better today. So that's what he answered.
That's why Nancy Reagan was always smiling.
I never wrote about it, but the stenographers who transcribed the interview laughed about it and told everybody, and it wound up in a couple of books. And I finally did write about it when somebody in their book criticized me for asking him that. So I had to tell a story.
Why were you criticized?
Silly question. Invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
No, all the real reasons why it was a dumb thing to ask. But the thing about it, though, is I got one of the best that's my first question of him, and I got one of the best interviews I've ever had with him after that. He talked about all kinds of things that he normally might not have.
Well, there you go. Open the door.